It's been several months now, and my thoughts keep going back to my last day in Vienna. I had a coffee in the first district and watched people walk by. Traditional Viennese, immigrants from Eastern Europe, from Turkey, the ever-present Russian tourists. A beautiful and fascinating mix of people brought together in this old but vibrant city at the center of Europe. It still is, in many ways, like it has long been, a crossroads of Europe from east to west and north to south. Since then, I've been struggling to find a word or image that could express the dynamic and multifaceted nature of the experience we had. Jessica Lonis, the program director, expressed it best. I should have known, since for me and for Vienna, it always goes back to coffee. Legend has it that at the end of the Second Siege of Vienna by the Ottoman Turks in 1683, the liberating army of the Habsburgs and their Polish allies discovered sacks of strange beans left behind by the Turks. Instead of burning them, as many wanted to do, Georg Franz Koszycki, a hero of the war, used them to open the first coffee house in the city. Ever since then, the Viennese have loved coffee and their coffee houses, which have been very central to the cultural life of the city ever since. Koszycki himself has become somewhat of a folk hero for this coffee-loving city.
Vienna waits for you.
You're in a certain situation with a certain group of people. It has a dynamic, the group has a dynamic, and it's really beautiful to see when that group dynamic kind of comes together in this beautiful, it's like a mélange, which is it's an Austrian type of coffee, and a mélange. It's coffee with milk, and it's lovely and swirled and kind of frothy. And I look at like the group. Often the group becomes an mélange because it really is this. It's wonderful to see how the students interact not only with their environment but with each other and with the language and with the culture. And I just think it's awesome.
Mélange is a French loanword that means mixture. This idea of mixture through the very Viennese coffee drink epitomizes the combination of influences in the makeup of the city. But also, it is a good characterization of the different personalities and experiences our group brought to this study abroad. My name is Greg Hellman from the World Studies Media Center in the School of World Studies. This film will share and reflect on the students' learning experience that took place during the Vienna Summer 2014 study abroad, directed and led by Jessica Lonis. Vienna is a fascinating city. It has an exciting and active contemporary cultural scene, while having a long history of playing an important role in the political, artistic, and scientific domains. To mention the names Freud, Klimt, and Mozart evokes just a few of the famous figures associated with this city. It is the capital of Austria and the second largest German-speaking city in the world. Our group was made up of 9 students who would all be studying German language at a language school in Vienna. There was also a World 391 course on aspects of Viennese culture taught in English by the study abroad director. Jessica had a few meetings before we departed for Austria, the most important of which was where we met in the media center for the students to present their research and blogging on landmarks they would explore in Vienna. I had a chance to interview the students beforehand on their expectations. There was uncertainty and a little apprehension, but most of all, the dominant feelings were of excitement and curious anticipation. I was as nervous as the others, and no less excited.
As the director of the program, the VCU program to Vienna, of course I have a huge expectation for students in general. Having lived in Vienna for 6 years, worked here, I absolutely love this city. And so many things change every year, so it's always great when you come back and there's some new and exciting thing to discover, or there's new buildings popped up, there's a great new festival.
I'm really excited to be in an immersion setting.
I don't see it as a challenge. I see this as an opportunity. I see this as something to enjoy. I am ready for it.
Yeah, I don't know quite what to expect. I keep thinking, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a thing because I'm going to see this. And I'm like, well, seeing things is one thing, but actually experiencing it is another.
And I'm really excited to go experience another culture's art.
I've never left the United States, so actually traveling is really terrifying for me.
So it'll be challenging, but I think I'm ready. It's going to be exciting.
I'm really excited about going. I can't wait to go, and I think it's going to be a terrific time. And I think that the things that I'm nervous about even will just start to fall away once I get there.
I'm excited about being in a bigger city where I can take the U-Bahn, or I can take the bus, or I can take the tram, or ride a bike, or even just walk anywhere, and I'll find something to go to have fun with, even if I'm by myself.
I don't really know what to expect, so I've never been over abroad. I'm a bit apprehensive of actually listening to someone speak and then just drawing a blank and being like, you want what?
I'm really excited for coffee because I know that they have a huge coffee culture there.
Blogging was something that the students did throughout the course, not just at the beginning. This activity served to structure and guide the students' encounter with the fascinating experiences of Vienna.
I teach a class on aspects of Viennese culture and history, but it's predominantly culture. And the main assignments are all centered around a blog.
The blog assignments really helped with us thinking critically about where we were and how those differences could affect us. It was good that we did it. I was really surprised about how helpful it really was.
One of the things I blogged about was the difference between Austrians and Americans as far as buying groceries. So the grocery stores there were smaller, the carts were smaller, the baskets were smaller, the cartons of milk were smaller, and our kitchens were pretty small. And all of that kind of indicates that, they go grocery shopping more frequently, they definitely eat differently, but the difference really struck me when I came back and I went grocery shopping for the first time, and I walked into Kroger and I was like, this is the size of a subway station. The grocery stores there would be the size of the produce section. It's funny seeing that between there and coming back.
Something I blogged about was the Secession Museum. It's almost like the building itself is like an installation piece filled with art from various artists, but it was designed by Gustav Klimt as an alternative gallery for really revolutionary artists.
One was the Flakturm, which is the flak towers in Vienna, Austria. Basically, they're the AA towers that were erected during World War II, and then they had AA guns, which are anti-aircraft weaponry, stationed on 4 or 6 platforms, and they're just some of them are square, some of them are circular, and basically just to keep the Allied powers from attacking and bombing Vienna. World War II really interested me, so it was seeing a little portion of history that I didn't even really know too much about.
Having to step back and reflect on what's going on, I think is so important to be able to capture that for a longer period of time. So I think from my perspective, that is the most successful part of the blog assignment.
The Naschmarkt is a traditional flea market in Vienna, always bustling with activity. One Saturday we visited it as a group. We purchased a few things, but mostly we came away with some interesting memories.
Before coming here, we researched some places that we would like to go. And I picked the Naschmarkt, and it was a flea market, and there was supposed to be all kinds of little trinkets and stuff, and I was like, great place to go find some souvenirs for myself as well as for some family members and friends.
Die haben gesagt, du kommst nicht.
Ja, ich kam zu spät.
Aber du hast uns gefunden, super. Wir machen einfach, das ist jetzt Flohmarkt und dann, wenn man so geht, auf den Bauernmarkt und dann Naschmarkt.
Okay.
Und wie sagt man just looking?
Ich schaue nur. Schau mal. Hast du schon was gekauft? Nein.
Ballon sagt, alles Cafés sind diese Weg.
Ja, ich liebe Bücher.
Total süß.
Das ist der
Schön. Fragezeichen.
The palace of the former Habsburg ruling dynasty is a must-see for any visit to Vienna. The students had read and heard much about it before the trip, the real deal was even more impressive.
If you are in Vienna, you must go at least once to Schönbrunn Palace.
Schönbrunn was absolutely gorgeous. There's not a bad view to be had.
The beauty and the majesty of just coming up into the palace gates and entering the courtyard and seeing the main complex of the building was just nothing short than extraordinary. The beautiful colors, the impressive facade of the building. Every room had some sort of history. Every room had some sort of interesting fact.
When we hiked up to the top of the hill, the view was so impressive that it would take anyone's breath away pretty much.
And then climbing up to the Gloriette was great because it gives you a view of the whole city.
One group experience that I thought was great was the reaction of the students after they had toured through Schloss Schönbrunn, and they were then out in the gardens, and we were walking through the gardens and we're going through, and not all of us were together at the same time, but then we kind of ran up the hill to the Gloriette. Well, some ran, some walked, some went really slowly, but walked up to the Gloriette and then got up to the Gloriette and looked back over the expanse of the garden and then the castles in the background. And just to hear different people's excitement or awe or just being so happy that they've gotten to experience that was one of the highlights this year, that more students than ever before actually came up to me and said, that was so awesome, thank you.
The gardens are amazing. I think it's great that they're open to the public and that they've pretty much been that way since they were built.
The maze part was kind of fun. Some of the stuff that we walking through the little gardens and playing made me feel a little bit like a kid again. You know, there was just a little bit of a kid feeling there. You know, childlike, not childish. And I enjoyed that too.
The waltz is a beautiful dance that plays an important part in the traditions of Vienna and Austria as a whole. Our group attended an evening of waltzing organized by Kultura Wien, our language school in Vienna.
Waltzing in Vienna was actually one of my favorite things.
It's important to learn waltzing in Vienna because Vienna was a major hub of classical music for so long.
It's definitely an important part of Viennese culture because historically the Viennese love ceremony and they love fancy stuff, and they still have so many waltzes throughout the year for things. So if you live there, it's not unthinkable that you would need to know how to waltz if you want to go to a special event around New Year's.
So I think it was like a link to Vienna's cultural past.
It was a great experience. At first I really didn't want to do it. We were tired or whatever. Then we got there. We saw everybody doing it and everybody was being a good sport, and it just became one of my favorite experiences.
I was not very good at waltzing. I wore a skirt that was a little bit too long, so people kept stepping on it.
I really found it interesting how good the instructors of the program were at waltzing. Clearly they've been doing this for a while and practicing.
But it was a really fun experience. The room was a little hot, so everyone was drenched in sweat by the time we got done, but it was really cool to learn.
Cassandra was pretty good, so was Stephanie. Once you got her in the moment, just going around and I just took the lead, she could actually start going around pretty quickly. Fraulonis was good, but she was I'm taking leads.
I thought it was really fun. I picked it up pretty quickly. It was cool to dance with, your professors or other classmates.
I found that really interesting to be able to use something made in Vienna for something we can do today.
Our first big excursion outside of Vienna was to the monastery of Melk and to Dürnstein Castle in the Wachau region. Though we took a train from Vienna to get to Melk, we had the wonderful opportunity to take a boat ride on the fabulous Danube.
Coming into Melk, we went into the monastery, saw how beautiful the architecture was, the interesting history of the monastery.
The trip to Melk was awesome. The monastery was beautiful. I wish we had had more time there actually because it was huge, and a 45-minute tour wasn't very much time to get to see the whole thing, but it was great getting to see it.
To actually go through the monastery was really kind of neat. And having grown up Catholic, I understand some of what was going on and some of what I was seeing and what they were showing. But to hear some of the history behind and some of the work that was done, and you know how they would write books by hand, those were the only copies that people had, and some of the clothes that they wore and some of the stuff that they had, that was interesting for me to see.
I think a lot of them were very excited by the fact that they hiked up to a ruin in Dürnstein and actually got up to the top and got to look down and see the Danube and the Wachau. Again, it's like they're living and standing on rocks and dirt that knights in the Middle Ages were actually put together.
And the Dürnstein ruins, I could see why that was built there, because from the top you can see so far up and down the river, it would be hard for anybody to sneak up on you.
I loved Dürnstein. Hiking up to the ruins was really beautiful. I didn't think I was going to make it all the way up that hill, but I did.
But we also did the trip on the Danube, which was very beautiful, just to be through the mountains and on the river.
I was very nervous because I've never been on a boat for a long period of time, but I was good, didn't get boat sick or anything.
I did get to go up and down the Blue Danube, so I'm proud of that part.
Located in the historic center of Vienna, Kultura Wien was the language school where the students and I studied German Monday through Friday. Our teachers were Tommy, Manuela, and Franz, and they each inspired us to love the German language even more and gave us insights on how to improve our mastery of the language. Directed by Renata Schmidt, Kultura Wien is a special place that gave us a warm personal connection to the city. Many of our activities and excursions were also organized and facilitated by Kultura Wien. Without Renata